going on there, jerk faces? It's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmissions, brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. It's our weekly live stream. We talk about news, current events, have wrestle with philosophical ideas, as well as our movie review. Tonight we'll be concluding our Devil in the Details month with the 1997 classic The Devil's Advocate, starring Al Pacino, Keanu Reeves, Charlize Theron.
What a movie, dude. What a great way to end the month.
Right. Yeah. And I do believe this is Robert's first time viewing.
Never seen it before. It was completely new to me, and I couldn't have liked it anymore. It's amazing. It was great. Al Pacino is really good, and I thought Keanu Reeves really knocked it out of the park in this one.
Yeah, I mean, I know Keanu Reeves gets some shit for like his accents and stuff, but I think he pulled off, Florida Panhandle pretty well.
Dude, he did. I think he did a great job, and I don't know. It kind of we'll talk about it when we get in there. But I kept thinking of like, have you ever seen The Rainmaker? Not the Rainmaker. What the hell's the one? There's one with like Tom. Oh, The Firm. That's what it is with Tom Cruise. This film reminded me a lot of The Firm.
Yeah.
Although like The Firm doesn't have the supernatural aspect to it.
Yeah. You know what? I don't think I've ever watched that movie entirely through.
That would be a great fucking Devil's Advocate and The Firm would be an awesome double feature.
Because I know, Tom Cruise is like a hotshot lawyer who gets recruited to this, really powerful firm. But it's like very culty.
So I bet you the elevator pitch for this film was, all right, so The Firm, right? All right, well, think about The Firm, but with the devil.
Right.
I'm in.
Son of a bitch, I'm in. So you of course you have that that to look forward to, as well as our topics for discussion tonight, which I'm pretty excited to get into. Because we try to have the really interesting topics for discussion. Things that like not a lot of people are talking about, or at least give our takes on certain topics.
Yeah, we might not always choose movies that are like super in the zeitgeist per se. Like, we might choose something obscure, when it comes to certain topics. And like even like topics that maybe aren't necessarily what everyone else is talking about, but I would say maybe they are more important than what everyone's talking about.
Or offering a point of view that they hadn't considered yet.
That is also true.
But yeah, I guess anything to report on your end personally?
Not too. It's been pretty crazy at work. We're down a bunch of people, so it's been pretty much 6-day work weeks for me. So I've been doing that. What did we do? Well, I did have a couple of days off in a row this weekend for Memorial Day, thankfully. So, kind of just spent some time at home, hung out with the wife. We watched a bunch of movies, actually. Showed her E.T. for the first time. She was not a fan. She thought it was boring. We watched the Charlie's Angels 1 and 2.
But she loved those.
Those are some of her favorite movies. She knows every line.
Of course she does.
To that movie, which it's nuts.
Of course she does.
First one is good. Second one is fun, but it's not a good movie. It's like they push it way over the top on that one. But watched that. Showed her Changing Lanes.
Okay. really quickly. What I always wonder. I always wonder what was the beef between Bill Murray and Lucy Liu.
I don't
Because
know.
yeah, it's reported that I if I don't know if it was on more on his end than on her end, but yeah, I heard that yeah, Bill Murray like hated Lucy Liu.
I mean, I know that there's with with Bill Murray, he does have a reputation for being a little bit
Uh huh.
prickly. Um, and I like I said, I don't know, about Lucy Liu if there's like some sort of issue that people have with
Uh huh.
her too, like if she has issues like on her other films. But I do know the reputation with Bill Murray is that he is a little bit of a he comes off as like a standoffish
Uh
jerk.
huh.
Uh, and maybe that just like kind of there was something where he didn't think that she was like a good enough caliber of actor for that to be in the role or whatever. Maybe that's what it was. I don't know. I'm that's just this is just speculation on my
Right.
part. But it could very easily have been the other way around. Maybe there was nothing that he did wrong. Maybe it was something that Lucy Liu did. Who we just don't know.
Right.
And I
But I
don't know
mean, it
what
doesn't
the
seem like because Lucy Liu's been in a bunch of stuff, and like there's never at least not at least not that
I've
yeah
never
never
heard of
heard of
any
anything where like
problems with
people had a
her.
problem with her on set or she's a prima donna or whatever. So
Well, even like when Groundhog Day was it Andy
mm,
McDowell? I mean, she does talk very kindly of Bill Murray, and she did have a good time on the film. But she's been interviewed asking about like the that time. It's like, yeah, he's a little bit standoffish. Not in for her. It was like it wasn't like a bad thing. It's like it was. He was very professional. There was nothing, you know, uh, that he did wrong to me. But like, I could see where people would not do well with
mm,
that. I mean, she was very nice about
right,
it.
right.
So yeah, yeah, I'm. I think that they did well in bringing Bernie Mac into the second one because I thought he was fun in the
Mm.
film. Crispin Glover is just so fucking weird in both those films, though. Though
Wait,
he's just a
the
weird
original
dude to
George
begin with.
McFly?
The so like the Thin Man or the guy who like rips off the hair or whatever. That's Crispin
Yeah,
Glover.
yeah. He played George McFly in the first one before they replaced him.
Yeah. The in the original Back
Yeah,
to the
original Back to the
Future.
Future.
Yeah, he was really weird in both those films. Uh, but I think they're fun films. Just the second one just goes a little over the top,
Mm,
and you're either in or you're out. I enjoyed it, but I could see where people would be like, "What the fuck is this?"
right,
That's probably why there wasn't a third one.
right.
Because I know the first one was a pretty big hit,
Mm.
but I don't know about
Well, I
the
mean,
second
yeah. Like,
one.
what is it? The soundtrack alone, it pulled in what's it? Destiny's Child for the soundtrack. So
Oh hell yeah, dude! It
it was
was.
huge. It was big. I think there's, and
I remember
I
like
think there was also like some like what was it? Some endorsement deal like through Pepsi too, if I'm remembering correctly.
yeah, they had a whole
Uh-huh.
thing, and but man, I saw both of those in theaters. They're great. It's a lot of
Mm,
fun. Yeah, it was kind of nice to relive that early 2000s fun that I had in the theaters.
mm.
And I said if like there's ever a time where they're showing those again in theaters for like a revival showing for some reason, my wife is like, "Please bring me. I want to go see those in theaters." It's like, "Absolutely." But yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I hung out with some friends on Memorial Day, had some tacos. But other than that, just kind of kept my nose clean. Not too much exciting there.
I see.
How about you, brother?
Um, this past weekend. Yeah, just usual stuff. Volunteering, work. Um, what was it? I went into work on Monday, or yesterday, I should say. But it was pretty slow. I mean, I guess everyone was off enjoying their weekend. I mean, we had a few drop-offs for service, and we had a returning customer come in for to buy a bike, but unfortunately they misunderstood the message that my friend and partner left, on the voicemail, because the customer was wanted this very specific bike, and my friend let him know. It was like, oh hey, yeah, if you want the bike, we can order it for you and get in the shop in a couple days. And he took that to mean, oh yeah, we're going to order the bike and it'll be in the shop a couple days. Just come over, and which he did. And so we got there. It's like, oh yeah, your friend, your partner told us the bike was here. I was like, what? And then he played me the voicemail, and just like, it's like, here's what I heard, as a very in a very gently but matter of fact way, I said, he said, it's like, if you want the bike, I could order it for you. Just let me know. And so, yeah, and so and it was a bike for his kid, his son, and
I see.
And he wanted a. I guess before even, I guess it's a good thing that my friend didn't order the bike for him, because he wanted to at least he wanted to come and see that the bike would be a good fit for his son, who's still a young kid, and so
right.
Unfortunately, we didn't of course we didn't have the bike, and most of our bikes that we sell are geared towards
adults.
Young adults to adults. So not a whole lot of inventory for kids, but luckily, there was a bike that very closely matched the dimensions of the bike that he was looking for, and so we had the son, mount it, and it seemed like it would be a good fit.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, but I guess I guess brand loyalty is a thing, because the guy, he found, apparently there's a shop in Santa Monica that was selling it, and he said, oh, you know what, we'll since they have it, we'll go down there, we'll try it on, make sure that's the right fit for Junior, and then we'll come back and buy it from you guys. And so that felt really good, that that we earned that this guy's business. Because previously we sold him a small little kind of push e-bike for his daughter, and so I'm glad that they came back, and and that we're their bike shop. So that was good.
That's awesome. Yeah. Anything like? Did you do anything with like the family? Anything like that? Or just
family. Well, the weekend, no. Well, my parents left today to go to North Carolina to go visit with my cousin and his parents. And it also happens to be that my one of my nieces, she's graduating high school this year, and so they went to go and hang out with them, and then also go see her walk the stage at her graduation.
Oh, okay, all right.
Um, yeah, that's about it. Oh, me and my friend, we went in on a tandem kayak for our fishing. So
oh, nice.
Yeah, because particularly because we've been going out to this lake nearby, and we're relegated to fishing along like the shoreline, and if you've ever been fishing, it's a hit or miss. When you're just fishing off the shoreline, and so with the acquisition of this kayak, we'll be able to actually get out into the water and be amongst our prey. So I'm really looking forward
Nice.
to that.
Hey, should actually I should have you hook up with Santa. Yeah, he has a boat,
Oh shoot, yeah, he does. Oh,
so
okay.
he does have a boat. So
Oh.
you might
Do you know how
I
long?
should probably let him know like uh pretty good
Okay,
size
is it like a
actually.
bass boat?
Uh yeah, something
Okay,
like that. It's like a good like little like 10 footer.
okay, all right.
Yeah, he got one for pretty
Mm-hmm.
inexpensive and refurbished it and got it out on the water a couple times already.
Nice.
I think he's got some more plans this summer to
Oh yeah,
get out on the lake
definitely gonna
and
have to hit up
camp out
Santa.
and stuff.
Yeah, my
Yeah, I think
Santa
you
my
should.
Santa was in Nam and goes fishing. Perfect.
Exactly.
It's perfect for me, man.
Yeah, I should we'll set up a time to hang out and we'll talk about
Yeah, for
fishing.
sure. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Cool.
All right. So with that out of the way, let's get into topics for discussion. Let's get into your topic first.
You want to start
Yeah.
with mine?
Yeah. Because
Okay.
I mean,
All
just
right.
because I
Well,
know you have to do
I
the thing real fast, and then it'd be better because I need the back and forth for my topic.
got it. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on kind of. I've been hearing a lot of stuff about the current uh, state of dating. Obviously, with like, there's a lot of the apps out there.
Yeah.
It's kind of. I think we have lost a little bit as a society as far as conversing with people and learning. I think social cues have kind of pretty much gone out the window because not a lot of people interact with one another in that way anymore.
Hmm.
Now, dating has always been a difficult thing. Even going back in time, I think there was still yes, did men and women go out to these social clubs and go out dancing, stuff like that? Sure. Um, are there have there always been nefarious men and women? Sure. But we have created uh, I, a s- what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of created this arena now where I think both sides, men and women, are so skeptical of one another. Is this woman, if I just say hello, is this woman gonna, accuse
I
me
I
of
think I think the,
uh,
the word you're looking for is quagmire.
yeah, it is a quagmire. Is this woman gonna, blow her rape whistle and, try to, say that I touched her inappropriately or said something like sexually harassed her? And sometimes that can, it depends on how good looking someone is for also for
Hmm.
one.
Right. It's
Um,
like it's like that
and then
Bill Burr bit. Like there's a difference between stop and stop.
there is but see, but you don't know how to read social cues anymore.
Right.
So, um, the other, yeah, and I think for women too, and not to, there are good women out there, but there is that worry that is this a good person? Like, eh, you're not, and because the media and every like show and every raging feminist out there is says like, well, every man is out there to try to rape you, and you don't need no man kind of
Hmm.
thing. And essentially, or be like a man, just sleep with everything that comes your way, uh, which is obviously not been a good thing for anybody.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, even in my own experience with the dating apps, I can tell you, it's a challenge. What is it? A lot of the again, from my own experience, a lot of the times, I'm the one having to generate the discussion. I'm the one constantly having to, engage, having to really pull the teeth, really, try to ring out the answers from these women, um, and it's because on the apps it's supposed to be a two-way street, right? So I show interest, and then the woman shows interest in also matching with me, and then we start talking, and a lot of times I'm the one constantly answering, oh, where are you from? What do you do? Oh, like what'd you do this weekend? But it's never they never the women seldomly ever investigate me. They're not asking me about how what my day was like, or what my interests are, or what my favorite color is even. And I guess it doesn't help like that they can't even that through the text feature, the messaging app portion of dating apps, you can't read someone's expression, and or you can't hear the tone of their voice. Like if I that's why I seldomly try to make jokes through text, unless I really know the person. Um, but even if I try to do like a light little turn of phrase, it's sometimes blows right past them. Um, I mean, I think we do have unique problems, but they're not. I think the principle of it is not unique, because people are people, regardless of the age in which they live. And back in the day, I'm sure there were a lot of awkward men and women who lacked certain social graces, or were not deft at reading social cues, or picking up on nonverbal communication. But I think with the advent of technology, specifically the internet, I think it just might have magnified uh, the problem, and not necessarily making. And this is my own personal opinion. I don't think it made it worse, but I think I just magnified it, so that it's more perceptible to the general public.
Yeah, I'm very thankful that I really didn't have to sort through this kind of craziness.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that doesn't mean that like me getting together with my wife was very easy. It was not by any means.
If people only knew
Um,
the whole story.
God, such
I
a
mean,
pain in the ass.
I
But
don't even know the whole story, but I know enough to where I could I could make some intelligent guesses.
it kind of a pain in the ass. But I think ultimately we both knew that we wanted to be together, and it eventually happened. Getting to that, and then once you get to that road, then there's even more challenges, which we had. But I think we have come to a good point there. But I feel for people nowadays because well, you have these companies too, these uh, different apps that it's more of I don't they don't necessarily maybe want to pair people up just because this is it's a money making machine.
Right.
And you have I think there are more men on these than women.
Well, actually,
And so or is
actually,
it the other way
current
around?
data is suggesting that men are leaving the apps. Uh,
Oh, are
yeah,
they? Okay, well that's yeah.
yeah. It's because I mean, I can speak. Okay, I'm speaking just from my own experience, but I'm sure a lot of men can attest to this. That I'll be swiping through, the selections, and even what is it, when I get notifications about, like, what is it, that this one app, Coffee Meets Bagel. Every day at
Right.
noon, they send you an alert with the latest selection that they compile for you. Um, but after a while, it's just been the same selection, over and over again, in like pretty much in, I mean, I exaggeration, but in infinitum. It's like they're just cycling through, and then and it's just
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
maybe maybe the apps have reached a point of saturation, because I'm sure, not everyone is on Coffee Meets Bagel, not everyone is only on Tinder, not everyone is only on what is it, Bumble, or Hinge, or any OK Cupid, or any of the various other dating apps out there. Um, uh, but uh, yeah,
I find it funny because
I just keep getting the same women over. I mean, not over and over again,
yeah,
but every few months, it's just like, recycling of the girls that I either swipe
it's like
yes on or swipe no on, and it's just,
right.
and it merely might just because of the saturation thing. It's like, the apps have reached peak saturation, and that's all the people that are ever going to open up a dating app profile. And I'm just stuck with the what's what the whatever that they can offer.
I wonder if do you think that there's also like a unreasonable expectations that people have when it comes to like as far as both on men and women. I know women have some like pretty unrealistic things where, well, if he's not this height or doesn't make this amount of money, well, it's like, well, now you have now limited your feel your how you're looking for somebody. It's dwindled a lot, and you also are you bring 0 to the table. Like, what exactly you bring? Are you financially independent? Do you have goals, plans? What do you bring to the table? And vice versa. There's guys who, they're maybe they're not the best looking or whatever, and they're looking for someone that's attractive, but they also don't bring anything to the table. They still live at home. They don't have a stable job. Or whatever. It's like it's a what do you expect?
Well, I mean, I think partially partial to partially what's contributed to the high standards of women is the accessibility to men. In that, I mean that, you know prior to the internet, if you were going to meet someone or couple with somebody, for the purposes of marriage and family creation, you're limited to about a 25-mile radius from where you live, right?
I think that's still like kind of like realistically, I think
Well,
that's still the
well,
same.
allow me to land here. 25-mile range, okay. But now, with the internet and the accessibility to people, um, you know, the reach is now the entire planet, you know, essentially. And so, and I'm not saying uh, that a woman is gonna, necessarily go and be with that one. Like, say there's a woman in Cleveland, and she goes and like connects with a guy from England or something. I'm not saying that woman is necessarily gonna go to England to go and be with him, but I'm just saying that that woman now has access to that man in England.
That is
Yeah,
true. You're right.
and so and again, and men and women are different. Okay, women, the currency for women is attention. The currency for women is attention. So, the more attention that a woman gets, the richer she feels. Okay,
Mhm.
and then we then get into we get into quality, because now not only does that woman have that woman in Cleveland now have access to that woman or that man in England, but she also has access to a man in Italy or Zimbabwe or Tokyo or Buenos Aires, and then she also
Right.
has access to a celebrity. And it's not
Yeah.
necessarily that she is initiating with him. It's especially for a celebrity or a higher status male. It's the higher status male or the celebrity that is engaging with her,
I see.
right? And
Okay.
so because she gets the attention from these high status men, she thinks that she is of that same caliber.
Mm.
And so
Okay.
now, now Reggie down at the Piggly Wiggly, he doesn't cut it. He doesn't cut it anymore. He doesn't cut it anymore. Why would she stoop to Reggie's level when she's getting attention from all these men from across the world, and also now celebrity men.
I see. The other thing too, obviously, because obviously people are on these
Mm-hmm.
things, right? And I'm sure that they're just like on any sort of current social media style type of thing. There are like bots and stuff that are there, but clearly people are wanting to find relationships and get married and do stuff. That's obviously, otherwise these would not be a thing, right? And people want to get together, yet for some reason they just can't do it. And it seems like men can't seem to like gain any traction, and at the same time, women can't gain any traction either. And I'm still trying to figure out like what is the holdup essentially in from what's going on.
Well, I mean,
I mean, you should. So I think it is important to have
mhm.
standards and be somewhat
Right, of
selective,
course.
but like also you have to make realistic standards as well. Obviously, like morality and worldview. I think those are somewhat non-negotiable. But if you and it's yeah, you can have a list of things that you're looking for, and if they meet like let's say you have a list of 50 things, right? And they meet like maybe 15 of those. That's a pretty good start.
Well, see, here's the thing though. They actually did a study about this, and what is it? They surveyed a bunch of men and a bunch of women, and they told the men, it's like, um, he's like, you could have your dream woman, with the caveat that she'll only, like, okay, she'll be your somewhat dream woman, like she'll only meet 80% of your criteria, and all the men, or generally the men said, great, that's awesome, 80%, that's great. um, and then the same thing was posed to women, and it's like, oh, you can have your dream man, save for the caveat is like he's not going to be everything that you want, he's only going to be 80% of your criteria. And the women immediately rejected him because he's like, oh, why 80% is not enough. And so it goes again to this idea of like the economy of the different economies that women work under. So like women who get all this attention from all these men around the world, and and then also like with celebrities, or even millionaires, just not necessarily celebrities, but people with like resources. It's like, oh yeah, hey, people don't people may not understand this, but Instagram is one of the biggest dating apps in the world. You know,
Yeah, it is.
and a millionaire can go and find you know the latest cohort of pretty young things, and as the kids would say, slide into her DM and say, hey, why don't you come out and meet me in the Hamptons this weekend? I'll fly you out. And again, how is Reggie, the local bagger at the Piggly Wiggly, supposed to compete with that?
Can't. That is true. That is very true.
And so,
I
and so
just
it goes to a different mindset as well. Because remember, as studies show, like men were ecstatic about getting a woman who met 80% of their requirements or criteria, but a huge proportion of women were dissatisfied with only getting 80% of their criteria met. And it's because of the different economies that women and men live under.
Do you think that it would be better for people to kind of just abandon this style of trying to find somebody, and like we just go back to going out into the real world and talking with people?
Not necessarily, because people are still going to be people. Delusional people, they're going to be delusional on the internet. They're going to be delusional in real life. And I mean that for both men and women. Okay, I'm not just saying
Yeah.
women are the delusional. Okay, both delusional men and delusional women. If they're
I I
delusional,
I I know
yeah,
what
if
you're
they're
talking about,
delusional on
both.
the internet, they're gonna be delusional in real life.
That is true.
So, um, I think one, have your non-negotiables, and have your non-negotiables, and also have a discerning have a discerning mind. Look at the patterns. Watch how people move. They'll people will uh, reveal themselves to you. Over time. Just spend enough time around somebody, and they'll reveal who they are. Like in the way they move, in the way they speak. They'll out themselves.
I know that for me, I could I can tell within the first 10 minutes if it's even a conversation I want to keep continuing talking to this
Mm-hmm.
person, or if I'm like, God, this person fucking sucks. And it's like, you're just like, okay, I want to go now. But, uh, but yeah, over time, people do reveal who they really are. They can put up a facade for a
Right,
certain
short
amount of
amount of time,
time,
but then
but that can go away. That goes away really when you're with somebody for a significant amount of time. That facade starts to go away because you get comfortable and you really become who you are. Um, and then you really know if that person is someone you want to be with. When you see them at like kind of not their worst, but like just kind of like their more natural
mm-hmm.
self, if you can handle that, that's whatever their faults may be,
Mm-hmm.
then that's a good sign.
Yeah.
But no, I was the reason I brought this topic up. I was watching a movie called Marty, starring Ernest Borgnine. It's from 1955, I believe, and it was dealing with this same issue, not with like the apps and whatever, but it's talking about dating and how our main character Marty, he's a uh, fairly successful burgeoning business owner. He's going to be buying the butcher shop that he works at, and he will now own a business. And he takes care of his mom, and all of his other siblings have gotten married, and he's kind of getting that pressure. It's like, when are you going to get married, Marty? Because he's in a neighborhood where everyone knows everyone. It's like, Marty, when are you going to get married, huh? What's the matter with you? And he is going out like on the weekends with his friends, and they're going to these dance clubs and social clubs, and it's like, I'm 34, I'm tired of this. Like, I don't think I'm ever going to get married. It's fine. Like, I like my life, I like who I am. And all of a sudden, I think when he's pretty much at the point of just giving up, this woman kind of falls into his lap, and he like they what ends up happening. And she is a lot like him. She's a school teacher who's also has ambitions to become something more, and she's not like the supermodel esque looking type of woman, but she's attractive. And the guy that like brings her out on the date essentially is like, she's a dog. I can't be with this one. I gotta get out of here. So he essentially like abandons her and is trying to pay people to take her off of his hands. And it's kind of a fucked up thing to do. But Marty, he ends up going up to this woman, and he's like, hey, that's his. He kind of stands up for her, and they just start talking, and they realize that they both kind of like each other, and it kind of goes from there. But it's the thing that, like, he'd been on the dating scene for a long time, probably for at least his throughout his 20s and into his early 30s, and was essentially ready to give up. And I think there's a lot of people in our time that are a lot like that. They've been trying this for so long, and it's like, this is such a pain in the ass. I'm tired of this. And especially now with society the way it is, it's people don't know how to talk to each other, and everyone's kind of gun shy because what if I say the wrong thing? And before, it's just social embarrassment. Who gives a shit? But nowadays, there's so much pressure. It's like, oh, well, what if I say the wrong thing? Am I going to be accused of sexual harassment? Am I going to be you know, are they going to think that I'm trying to do something nefarious, whatever? There's so much of these pressures that people are under nowadays, and it's tough out there. It's a wasteland.
Yeah, I mostly agree, but again, how I said that, um, that a lot of these problems today, they're not worse; they're just magnified. And I think, because I mean, even back then, it's if you were labeled as someone who was forceful, who was forcing, you had a reputation of someone, being forceful with women, that followed you around. Your scarlet letter to bear. But it's just now,
Yeah.
I guess my wording is like, I guess now it's just now, not magnified but amplified in this case. And so now you're no longer the creep in your neck of the woods. You're the creep all over the world.
Oh, yeah, that's
So I
true.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, and people want to say how it was so bad, men got pretty much got away with everything back in the day. That's not true. You know that's
No,
that's
it's not.
that's
That's a lie.
that's demonstrably not true. Because of even just the language that we use. Like like henpecked, or God, what's that one humiliation? There's like humiliation
Whipped?
rituals. Yeah, yeah. There's like whipped. that's someone, that's not someone who's like someone who's a
there have been demanding, powerful women throughout history.
right. But I
Okay,
mean, like,
it's there. That has always been a
yeah, and
thing.
like the term whip means that you were literally whipped because you did something wrong. Like particularly in the foray of of romantic relations, like you're too forceful with a woman, or you know um, you robbed her of her virtue. Um, whether in a consent in a more consensual way, but the man had the had the onus of keeping a woman chaste. But if you were known to be the man to rob her of her virtue, in a consensual manner, you were still thought of as the villain,
Yeah, that's what they had, like shotgun weddings and
right?
shit.
And again, like the term whipped, it means because you were punished.
Yeah,
So this idea that men got away with everything, and there's like a there's there that there was a rape epidemic in the early 20th century, early, and earlier. It's like that's just utter nonsense, you know.
and the other thing too is that we don't like those people ever. Like that, no guys like. Yeah, you know what I really liked? Raping and pillaging. That was
Right? It's
when that
like
has happened throughout
yeah,
time.
it's like in what's that Mel Brooks movie, Blazing Saddles, where it's like
Yeah, where all the white
no,
women
but it's
at?
like when they're like when they're signing up the rogues, and like the one guy's like,
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
it's like, I like rape and beaten and rape. It's like, you said rape twice. It's like, I really like rape. It's,
Yeah, yeah. That shows you how fucking ridiculous. No, that's a
yeah,
cartoon
exactly.
character. Like that's
That guy is not supposed to be
has
representative of men's attitudes, generally.
exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's like, listen, there has never been a moment in the world where people have like like good men have liked rape. They're evil men, certainly, yeah, because they're evil and they're messed up.
Hmm.
And has that happened in history? Absolutely, and it's horrible. But there's no good man today. Is like, you know what? I just need a good old raping. Where how can I get that going?
Right, and like yeah, the whole and like earlier this decade, when there or later last decade, that's so hard to keep track. Um, but this, the whole the notion of a rape culture, that like that fathers were having talks with with their boys about like oh what where's the best place to rape a girl, or what's the best kind of rope to tie her up. There's not ever been a conversation like that.
You mean you didn't have that conversation with your
Well,
dad,
I
Andy?
guess my
Come
dad didn't
on.
love me that much.
I guess mine didn't either. Jesus,
I know. How am I
so
supposed to be a
fucking
man
stupid.
without having the rape talk?
So it's so fucking dumb. Like there is no normal person has ever like had this conversation ever.
Hmm.
It, sorry, ladies, you've been
Yeah.
lied to. I'm not saying that there have there been creepy guys. Certainly, maybe they don't have all the social cues, and it's weird, and they don't kind of get it when you're telling them no. It's uncomfortable. Yes, I get it. There's been people those same people though that are talking to you with no, they don't understand social cues. Guess what? They do it to me too, where they don't. I don't want to talk to this person, but they don't shut the fuck up and leave me alone.
Yes. Yes.
Did you know? Have you know? It's not
It's
just
not just
women,
women.
ladies.
All
It's
right.
not just the women. It's
And you're not
everybody
the only
because
ones who suffer.
yes, everyone suffers because these people just they don't understand at all.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, there's it's just not true.
It's just not.
It's
Yeah,
come
and I
on,
mean,
guys.
again, like there's shaming language, when it comes to the mistreatment of women. I mean, famously, there's the donkey ride that that men would, if a man was found out to be like beating his wife, the the members of like the woman's family and a lot of the men in the village would grab that man, tie him up and parade him around town on a donkey backwards, to his ever loving shame.
Yeah.
You know,
It's like, oh, we know what
yeah,
that guy
and
did.
everyone, and then when you saw that, you knew exactly what that guy did, and that you were right to shame him.
Yeah. He's now cast us in society.
Exactly. Or this was like kind of this was like corporal. This was kind of like how a lot of subcultures, like they have like their own form of justice, and they have a means of self regulation. That's what that was.
Yeah.
Riding
Yeah.
a man backwards on a donkey through town, that was a self-regulating technique to make sure that all the to teach that man a lesson, but also to teach the other men in the town a lesson, like don't be this guy.
Yeah, I would say, no one, no men in society, or no good men in society are like, oh, great, she has two black eyes. I guess she doesn't
Right.
listen.
Oh, I know. We laugh, but it's an objectively funny joke,
That's a David Tell joke, dude. It's
right? I know. I guess she's not a good listener.
yeah.
Oh,
He's got a pair of Irish
right.
sunglasses.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, it have things, has the dating market changed? Yes, but I would contend that it's merely magnified or amplified what already existed.
I see. So you think this has always been a problem? It's just like now it's just so much more in our
Yeah,
face.
I would say so. Yes.
Yeah. I know they were I've been hearing like that there were in Korea, they've been really trying to push the media wise, and maybe not necessarily in Korea, but like the West has been trying to push this thing where you have some Korean feminists, trying to start like I think it was like the 4B movement or something like that,
Yeah,
where essentially they're,
I heard about
yeah,
this.
you've heard
Hmm.
about that. And it's funny because when there's like a lot of Korean women who end up speaking out against that, and they're like, yeah, no, that's not a thing. Like that's a very like fringe minority of people. And then it's like, oh, whatever, whatever, girl, you don't know anything. It's like we need this over in our country. It's like you've already tried to create it, you raging bald feminist or whatever the fuck that you're trying to do. It's it's like because a lot of Korean women, it's like they want to get married too. Like just like there's a whole they even have like isn't there like a government like funded thing like where they're trying to like match people up and stuff
I
like
mean, yeah, because
just because
Korea is way below. I mean, a lot of developed or Western countries are, with a few exceptions, of course. But a lot of yeah, the Western developed countries, yeah, they're not at replacement levels, and that's why there's
I know Japan is in a huge
yeah,
crisis right now with
Japan
that.
and Korea, like in like in another 80 years, Koreans and Japanese might go extinct as a people.
That's
Yeah, because they're like
crazy.
way below replacement. They're like at a 1.3 or something. Whereas a healthy society is at a replenishment rate of about like 2.6.
Telling you that all that hentai and sex robots over in Japan is really like killing them.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, but also like the incredibly competitive culture of both Japan and Korea is not helping things either. And as well as the I mean, this isn't an accolade that I wanted for my people, but yeah, Koreans are the most materialistic of all the Asian countries.
Dude,
Like
yes.
in terms of brand snobbery. So like
I think like the weird beauty standards over there also kind of contribute to that. Like everyone, the plastic surgery craze over there, and
I don't necessarily
it's
think that has anything. I don't think that has a contributory effect. I mean, I don't know, but the sense that I'm getting is that yeah, incredibly competitive culture, and as well as consumerism and materialism uh, has contributed. So like before, kind of like similarly here in America, where you know a man could work and provide a home, and a living for his family. I think similarly in Korea, once a man was able to provide for his family, but then because of the the influence of the West and brands um, and materialism, it then kind of incentivized the women to join the workforce as well.
yeah. I think that honestly, that's been a huge problem in society too. But the fact that it's you can't really make the living on one person's salary anymore.
Right, and I mean it is all, and it goes back to feminism because in particularly in America, what is it in the 1970s or 19 like the tail end of the 70s, with the inclusion of women into the workforce, productivity went up, but wages like pretty much plateaued. And it's because of the extra labor, the companies were capable of being more productive, yet because of the extra labor participation, wages stagnated because now
Yeah,
because there was such a small pool of workers, companies really had to work. They really had to offer a lot more to the workers. But now it's like before when the men who were working, they didn't feel like they're being compensated fairly. They could go on strike and they could renegotiate. But now now the employers, all they have to do is like, you're not going to work. I can just get these women to do it. You're not going to bring on these women, and they'll work for what you won't what you won't and I think that's partially what
yeah.
contributes to this idea of the wage gap, which has been debunked by more
Is
intelligent
false.
men than me, particularly Milton Friedman and Thomas Sowell.
Yeah, it's like what if that was the case? Like there were no men would ever work ever again.
Exactly, because yeah, it's like if you could, yeah. Here's the thing, because women. I don't mean to be mean, but this is why women are stupid, because they can't make the logical. They can't do the logics, connect the dots, where it's God, I'm gonna get canceled. Uh, but yeah, okay. They passed a law, the Civil Rights Act, or the Equal Pay Act in 1965, right? I mean,
So yeah, I
yeah,
think that's right.
1965. And I know, and it was under Kennedy. I remember that it was under Kennedy. So in 1965, they passed the Equal Pay Act. That means you cannot pay someone who's doing the same job, who's doing the same work at differently. All right, and then God, please don't. Oh man, I'm losing my train of thought here. Um, and then what is it? Men are working, and then women are hired, but then their wages stagnate. And but then you think, or men who threaten to quit, they get fired, and they get paid that job. And then they think that, and then when the men get different jobs, and they make more, and so they think that they're being that there's a pay discrepancy, when really oh God, I'm totally flopping this one. But yeah, if women could be paid less than men, then yeah, the all the employers and without exception, all of the employers would fire all the men and only hire women. Ah, I got there. And it just.
But yeah, there's so many different laws and regulations in place where that's just not
Right, and
true.
yeah, and just take affirmative action, and because there is affirmative action for women.
Yeah, there are a lot of women who obviously maybe might prioritize their family, so they don't work as much, and so they don't take home as much as like a man who uh, is
Right,
not concerned with that stuff.
right, because
Now, there's also women who are not concerned with that
right,
stuff
but yeah,
either, and
but
they're
just
working
more.
just as long and
Yeah, but
hard.
just more women crave a work-life balance. So because of that, they inherently work less than men. Just just inherently, factually, women work less than men because they desire more work-life balance. Whereas men, we are in a lot of ways men are designed to work more. And so yeah, and
That's why I would say if, let's say, if you have a man and a woman at the same level position at a company, and okay, let's say the woman works, she could work 40, but she works maybe 30 hours a week, right? So all you have to do is just you do a little bit of math. Well, the man who he doesn't have that concern that that woman does, he's working maybe 50 hours a week, maybe more. So just take out, like, just look at it based off of, like, okay, let's look at what this person, the man would be paid at 30 hours and what the woman who works 30 hours is paid at. Oh, looks like they're the same.
right.
Duh. It's so, yes, is the man overall making more money? Sure, but he's also working twice as
And it is
much.
and it is a choice. It
I,
is a choice because let
it
let's
is a
let's okay,
choice.
because you decided that you're not going to work 50 hours a week. You as the woman have decided to only work, well, what was the figure? Like 38 hours a week. All right, you
Yeah.
decided that you're going to do that, right? And also, yeah, and again, like again, I repeat myself, but the women desire more work-life balance. Let's say a man and a woman, they're in the exact same position and they have to work late at night, but and like both their kids go to the same school, and both their kids are in the school play. you know 9 out of 10 times I'm gonna bet that the woman decides not to stay and work late and then go see her kids play, but the man is gonna choose this.
There's
And there's
nothing
nothing
wrong with
wrong with that,
that.
and there's nothing wrong with that, but the man is gonna decide to stay at work and finish the project, and forgo his parently duty of going to his kids play.
Which sucks, but that's also a
Yeah,
reality,
yeah,
and it's so it's just it's people have to understand. You have to factor in uh work experience, time at the job, hours, working hours. Now, does that mean that all the employers are on the level? That's true. There's a lot of employers out there that will try to screw people over. That is very true. So I don't want to say not talk about that, but if everything is on the level, it's like I said, it's based off like what the person has done, is willing to do, that those type of things. It's not based off of just like, well, you're a woman, I'm not going to pay you a full man's wage.
right.
There's nobody that in uh there, like I said, there's employers that will try to screw people a different way, but not because of that.
Right. I mean, yeah, and
Because
particularly
that would
nowadays,
be like, you could sue
yeah,
them
I
for
mean,
that.
particularly nowadays, a way an employer might screw might try to screw over their employee for wages is just reduce hours. But
Yeah.
that's about it. I mean, but if I mean, particularly now, if you think of with like a lot of automation and stuff, you don't need that many employees, so you don't need them to be around as much. So yeah, you reduce their hours, and I mean, and if he's if the employer is doing it for you, the woman, pretty sure the employer is also doing it for the man.
Yeah, it was like if you look at, and you can also look at, the statistics too. Like, okay, all of a sudden, all the women's hours seem to be cut, but the men's either stayed the same or increased. Then you might have a case that, like, okay, maybe this guy is being a dick to the women, and then you can sue them because that is against the
Right.
law.
But then again, if you can prove that, then yes, it should be fought. And I'm right there with you, sister. But if it's because that let's say that the woman was a recent hire, and the man has been there for 5 years, and
12
or
years, yeah.
I'm trying to be at least somewhat realistic. But yeah, let's say like the man has been there 5 years longer than the woman. Um, and he's already been in like
That's going
right,
to
and yeah,
factor.
and the man has been in more supervisory positions. Then then those would be factors on why the man might get more hours. But let's let
Companies are gonna companies are gonna like eliminate their more recent hires
mhm.
first if they are having to cut purse strings a
Yeah,
little bit. That's just
yeah,
fact of
yeah.
life.
It's it might suck, but it's a reality of life. Seniority rules overall, right? Because if someone is more if someone's more familiar with something, then they are best qualified to operate said thing. It just stands to reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, pulling it back to the whole dating thing. Yeah, it's just yeah, it's again. I don't think these apps have made them worse. They just magnified them, amplified them. I think yeah, people have been dealing with lack of social graces and being able to read people forever. It's nothing new. Um, I think if you want to avoid a lot of the headache, date with a purpose. Date with the idea of marriage, and keep a weathered eye out. Because again, people will ultimately reveal themselves for who they really are, and all you have to do is just observe and the people if they're not a right fit, they're gonna let you know. And from that point, all you have to do is just walk away and try to find someone better.
That's It's not an easy thing, but there are things that you can do to make it easier.
Anything else you want to add to that?
Well, thank you. No. I wanted to get your perspective on it, as always. Very interesting because I know you're kind of in that grind a little bit. So, uh, I'm just so fucking thankful I'm not.
Yeah, rub it in. I'll be the first one to celebrate at your divorce party.
Oh, trust me, like it's either whether it be death or divorce, it's over for me. I'm out of the game, buddy.
All right. That'll do it for that topic for discussion. On to the next one, which is mine. I wanted to expand on this concept of what is it? Because the idea of the separation of church and state, and it's always unidirectional. It's never the it's always the church has to stay out of the state, but it's never applied the opposite direction, where the state should stay out of the domain of the church. And then what? And I only got recent. I only recently started thinking about this after a debate I saw where they were discussing. What was it? Basically, red pill versus tradcon.
Okay.
Yeah, and ultimate, and I guess ultimately the position was that at least tradcon like TM is no better than the red pillars that usually tradcons are vilifying. And in one particular instance, um, in one particular instance that was cited was marriage to the state. Um, and one of the arguments was that you know marriage has a specific definition, and it's had a specific definition, for millennia upon millennia. Um,
You're right.
And that's typically a union between a man and a woman under the covenant of the church. But for some reason, the church has ceded ground in this area, and have now there's such a thing as legal union, which could be argued is you know yeah and it could be argued that that's the state stepping over into the dominion of the church, and one of the other points is that without a covenantal union, that people who only get a civil union are living in sin.
Yeah, it's funny you bring this up because I have heard this argument before where you have people who, well, there's always been like uh a government recognizing marriages. It's like, well, that's to a degree that is true, but especially if you are a believer, right? And you're looking at it where, the first real marriage was Adam and Eve. There was no government, there was no state uh, to be known. I mean, for some time at least, there was no actual government. It was essentially it was run by God. But I I don't know where I stand on that actually. Because I do agree with the idea that I need the government to recognize the marriage that I have to the person that I love that has been put in my life. No, but to me, there's unfortunately it's ground that is just it though that tube is out of that toothpaste is out of the tube essentially at this point. I mean, I don't think there will never be a going back on that because I think pretty much any sort of anywhere you go, the state pretty much is kind of in charge of all that stuff, or they have to have some sort of foothold into that. Um, and I don't know if that's because you have people who have no sort of faith affiliation, whatever it may be, whatever religion that they might that is out there. There are people who are, agnostic or atheist of some sort, and they're not going to go to a church to get married. And maybe it's because of that we have a lot of where there's a some sort of judge or witness that is from the government to um, kind of have having that witness to the marriage. I don't know. I don't know if that's the why that's the case.
Right. I mean, this particular topic interested me in many different ways, but one of the ways that it really piqued or really has kind of arrested me was in the idea of the the state, you know you know whether or not you want to think of it as a partial overreach or a major overreach. They have crossed the boundary into the church. The church used to be the only.
I also, I,
Well, the church
yeah,
used to be the only one to hand out marriages, right? And I mean,
right. Well, because
yeah,
there
and I
was
get
there,
like the whole like, oh, like people are less religious, or they might want to seek marriage, but outside of a religious context. But then I would argue like then marriage doesn't really mean anything if it's outside of a religious context.
that's a possibility. I also think too that there was a time where the church was the state. You had the Holy Roman Empire that was a pretty vast thing, and that was essentially what we now know as the Vatican. That used to be an expansive empire in Europe, and you that was the group that said you're either married or you're not. Yeah, it's
Right, but I would then, but I was
so I would have to go back into like research this a little bit to see like where because their marriages have been recorded for God knows how long,
right,
but like where was it where
right, but
both government and like got involved in like what the church was
right,
doing. That's where
but I would still push back on you. Well, I would at least push back on that argument that church being government. Um, not really, because there was still because even when Rome was an empire, the church was a separate thing. It wasn't until Constantine that Christianity really had.
no, I'm not talking about the Roman Empire. I'm talking about the Holy Roman Empire. That's like that is like
Okay, yeah.
Charlemagne
Oh,
and
right.
stuff
Sorry,
like that.
you're right. But
In
even
the time of like the
right.
popes and like
But even still, I would still argue that it was still the church, though.
what I'm saying, but that
right.
was
But I know
when
they were essentially the government, but they still had their figurehead, and it wasn't the figurehead. It wasn't the figurehead. The magistrates of the emperor or the king that was going out. And you know parallelly, on the parallel, giving out marriages through the state.
yeah, it's well, I mean, it's you have the like the Borgias and all that. Yeah, all I mean, that was kind of like at the height of that where the church and the state were the same fucking thing.
Right, but I would again still push back saying that, being it that it was the church, it had this. It
I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm
No, no,
just
no,
saying
no.
that
But I'm just saying,
that's
yeah, but I'm
what
just saying that. But being still the church, it still had the sacramental right to give out marriages.
I I also like I said, I would need to go back and do like kind of do some research on when that started to be a thing. Like when did government really? Because this was not an American invention. I'm sure that this was happening in Europe at the time before European settlers came to
Right, right.
America.
I mean, and one example
This
I could cite. I don't remember the specifics, or I mean, I don't remember in great detail, but at least the specifics was like, yeah, in Italy, there was a thing where, people, uh, people would get married by the church and then um, get like uh, a civil like acknowledgement from like the town government or whatever, denoting that yes, it's like yes, these two people are married, but they would still have to go to the church first. And so in
Yeah, it's I would love to see like where that disconnect happened, and the idea of, and obviously like the idea of church church and state being separate. It's a horrible misinterpretation of a letter from Thomas Jefferson. There's nothing in
right,
the
yeah, yeah,
Constitution.
nothing
There's
in the
nothing in the
Federalist
Declaration of
Papers, nothing
Independence.
in the like, not even in drafts of the Constitution or Declaration of
And
Independence.
what Jefferson was talking about in that letter was that we should not be it was the government should not we do not want to be like what England
Right,
was,
yeah,
where
not yeah,
you
a
have
Church of
the
England.
Church
Yeah,
of
we didn't want to
England,
have a Church of America.
and we are not going to uh deputize a particular denomination of Christianity to be the official
Right,
church of the United States. That was the whole point of that
right.
letter,
But yeah,
and
yeah. So I'm more
it
yeah.
has been horribly
Right. So I'm
misinterpreted.
going off of the misinterpretation. So people, particularly
Yeah.
secular people, will scream till their face turns blue about how the church shouldn't be involved in politics and da 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 da. But in the reverse, it's like there's not the government shouldn't get involved in the business of the church.
Well, and here, if what's funny is like I would love to like, okay, you keep saying, church and state should be separate. Do you want to know where that came from? Let me show you, because that letter is still, we can read that letter today. It's still, it is up on the internet. We can read it. And once again, like people will take one small snippet of something and they will just create a whole thing out
Yeah,
of
out of
that.
whole cloth.
Uh, and it's like, oh, well, that's great that you created that whole like idea out of that, like out of two words. But that is not what is being said here. Like you have misinterpreted this completely.
Right. To
And
quote Inigo Montoya, is that you keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
and well, and the idea that what you're bringing up, that is exactly what Thomas Jefferson is talking about. Yeah, we as the state, the government, should not be in the should not be deputizing, like we should not be denoting a certain religion as the official religion of the United States. That is not, we are a country that is in the Bill of Rights, and the idea, and everything that America stands for is there is a freedom of religion, a freedom of speech, uh, that our citizens can choose the God that they want to worship. That is the whole idea of one of the big ideas of this country.
Yeah. Yeah, and what would really what would really bake the noodles of some people is that uh, states can have their own religion, their own state religion.
That is
Yeah,
true.
because
Yeah.
because of the what was it Article 10? Yeah, any
Yeah.
responsibly not specifically numerated uh, or delegated to the federal government is left to the state. So if a state decides, hey, you know what, we want a state religion, they could vote that.
We want to
Yeah, we
be
want to be
Catholic.
Catholics,
We
or we
want to
want to be
be,
Pentecostal, or we
yeah.
want to be such and such denomination. They can do that.
That is, yeah, that's the other thing that people don't realize. There's a lot of things that that's the crazy thing, is like the states have so much more power than they realize,
Yeah,
yet
they can constantly abdicate.
we have continued to abdicate to the federal government since the Civil War, at least.
Yeah, at the very least. But
but yeah, but like I said, you're advocating exactly what Thomas Jefferson talked about. It's not, the state should not be in the business of running the church or making the an official federal,
installing an
stamp
official
of like,
church.
exactly that, and that was the whole point behind his letter.
Yeah.
But yeah, but you're right. When it comes to marriage and that whole, that is a sticky situation. I do agree with that. I would want to do some more research into like when that actually even began as a thing, because that's not an American thing. That has happened, um, well before we were a country. I mean, that was happening in Europe, uh, way back when, before the settlers came, and probably even way before that. And who knows? I don't think there's anything biblically like, as far as, the back in the times of David or whatever, when that was happening. Uh, I don't think that. I mean, sure. I mean, the temple was involved, clearly. Like the religious people were involved in that. But as far as like the kingdom of David, like, putting their stamp of approval on something, like, I don't. As far as like a marriage was concerned, I don't think that was a
Right.
thing. I mean, maybe there's some archaeological evidence that's been produced within the last number of years where to prove me wrong, but yeah, it's an interesting thought. But I always like making people's head spins because they don't fucking read or think of the context behind what was being said. They want to interpret what they want to interpret out of something from, hundred, well, at this point hundreds of years ago, when they're not willing to think about, like, okay, what was the context of this thing 200 years ago, instead of,
Right. It's like, oh yeah.
uh there's a fancy word, for that. There is exegesis and
Eisegesis.
there's eisegesis. Yeah, and
Yeah, and the easiest
uh
way to
exegesis is where, like, you're reading it within its intended context. Eisegesis is where you're putting uh your own ideas and morals and thoughts of the current day into what you're reading, and that is just, you can't do that.
yeah, a good mnemonic device would be, exegesis is you're trying to extract the meaning out of the word, and eisegesis is you're putting yourself into the word.
Yeah, that's a great way to explain it. Sorry, I used some $5 words there.
Right, I know. But oh god, oh, I was gonna make a point. Exegesis, man, it was just like right there. And then it just flew out of my head. It's crazy. I hate it when that happens.
I hate when it
Um,
happens too.
yeah, God, it was on the line. Okay, we were talking about. Oh yeah, like exegesis, eisegesis. Yeah, like one of the greatest, one of the most misunderstood, misinterpreted words probably in the Constitution or the Bill of Rights is probably in the Second Amendment, which is regulate. Because people
Yeah,
nowadays, understand regulation as like uh, uh, some
government
sort of
body.
controlling oversight. And they say like, oh, like
Right.
how can you say like you want no regulations when the word regulate is right in the amendment? Miss me with that. Miss me with
Once
that
again,
noise.
what did that mean
Yeah,
back
miss me with
then?
that noise. What it meant back then is functioning. So a well functioning militia.
Yes.
God, yeah, these.
Yes, is that the current definition of what regulation is? No. But you have to look into what was meant back then. What did regulated? What did that mean back in 17 whatever? Like they wrote when they
Right.
wrote
Or
it.
like yeah, or even just like think about like what does it mean to regulate? It means to control, make to control, but also uh, to make regular, to basically make sure it works, to keep it in working order.
Yes,
So when you regulate something, you're making sure that
that would
it
be that.
works. It's in working condition.
Bingo.
Yeah. When you regulate your bike, or you regulate your you know your nail polish, or you regulate your kitchen, or you regulate your sock drawer. You're making sure that it works. It works in its working order.
It's in working order. Now, obviously, that is probably no longer the current definition of regulation because we just think of the government when we think of regulations. Um, and it's more of like just like, well, we don't like it this way. We want it this way. So do it that
Right.
way.
Um, another aspect of this whole like state issued marriage, which
Hmm.
this debate did touch upon, is that particularly if you're a believer, and you're someone who advocates or would what's the word I'm looking? God, why can't I speak tonight? Yeah, if you're a believer and you would permit civil union, and if you're a believer and you believe that marriage is an institution, is a sacrament, and a covenantal bond, under the church, by then you permitting civil unions like through the state, are you then what's it? Are you then promoting sin? Because basically sin is anything, or an understanding of sin could be anything out of God's purview. And any
Yeah.
so as a believer, are we permitting sin by allowing civil unions through the state? Um, and I mean, and
That's
yeah,
also a
and I
great
get,
question.
and Rob, I'm not taking shots at you. I really am not. Although, I'm really looking forward to the day that you have a proper church wedding, and and your wife finally makes an honest man out of you. But
Well, that is in the works because we do want to have like friends and
right, right, and
family
I mean, and yeah, and I
with
know
us.
finding a church for you guys has been kind of a issue as well. Uh, so
Yeah.
I
So
understand.
I think there was like extenuating. For me, I think there was extenuating circumstances in our case. But yeah, we do want to actually get you know do it at a church with our friends and family, and that is in the works. I know we're gonna probably do that within the next couple of years. So
Right.
for like we'll do it on our anniversary or something.
Right, but yeah, I mean, but to the question though, like, yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts? Like, is for specifically Christians, because we believe that marriage is a sacrament and a covenant, that comes from God. You know, is
Right.
the permitting of civil unions um, basically co-signing sin?
Oh, that's I haven't really thought about that actually.
Nor have I.
I
That's why that point that the debater made was so profound for me, because it's like
if if I mean, obviously, I may end up coming back to this at a later point, but I'm just based off of like how I'm thinking right now. If you are a believer, uh, I would say if you do profess to be a Christian, I think you need to get married at church. Because just like any other sort of sacrament, like baptism or the communion, that is a communal thing. It yes, it is something that is a personal thing. It is happening with like within you. There's something that's there. There's a union that is happening that is between two people. Yet at the same time, this is also a community thing. This is a something that the body of the church should be witness to and recognize and celebrate.
Right.
That's the kind of the whole idea
Right. And
behind
yeah,
this.
and also
Um,
the reason why you do it in front of people is accountability as well.
right. You don't. Here's the thing. Like, what people don't realize, you don't get baptized just because like that. Being baptized does not save
Right.
you.
Yeah, I know a lot of
Uh,
people like.
you are already
Right.
saved. This is something internally that has happened within you. It is
Right.
already
Yeah.
done.
It's just an
The
external.
baptism is just
Yeah. It's
it's an outward sign of an
right.
inward
Right.
change. That's the best way I can
Hmm.
describe it.
Precisely.
And marriage is also kind of in that same realm, I would think. Just as uh, the Lord's Supper is the communion. That's also the in that realm. So if you are a Christian, I would say get married at church. Don't get a civil union. Um, because and obviously, like I've kind of broken that a little bit, but yeah, that's a different story for a different time. The But like I said, there's a lot of people who like they're not a believer in
Hmm.
anything, whether it be like Islam, Hinduism, Taoism, whatever. Like they just don't believe in any of
Right.
that stuff. Um, but for some reason, marriage is a thing, and they want to get married and all that stuff, which I don't think is a bad thing. But they're not going to go to a church. They're not going to go to a religious institution to make that happen.
Hmm.
Where do they go?
Well, I mean,
Because I think it's I but is that a good thing? I don't know. I don't is it a good thing? Is it a sinful thing? I don't know what I think about that. I think if you do profess to be a believer in something, you should be married within the bounds of that religious institution. If you really believe in those things.
right. But yeah, because I think
I
there
mean,
is a point to be
whether
made
whether
that I think there is a point to be made that as believers, if we are permissive of a civil union through the state, and not sacramental, covenantal union before God, I think it could be a co-signing of sin, of degeneracy. Like,
to be honest, like this is like I said, I'm not
right,
discounting that. I'm not saying that I'm like, oh, that's
right,
horseshit. No, I'm not saying that. Um, I just would need to really wrestle
right.
with
Yeah,
that.
I
I
know. I'm,
haven't.
yeah, and I understand.
That's not even a question I've even
Right, yeah,
thought
and
of,
I'm,
to be
and I've had a
honest.
little bit more time to wrestle with it than you do. Um, yeah, I'm not saying that I would, if I found out that, I wouldn't go and like to rob and like stone his face, you know, be,
Your marriage is
yeah,
evil.
I'm
Yeah.
not saying that, but but just wrestling with that idea myself. It's just like, yeah, I think that might be correct. I mean, especially if we as Christians are supposed to be, um, ambassadors and proclaiming the gospel and getting and trying to bring in converts and things. I think and we are supposed to encourage people to go to the church. Um, you know, and nothing that we do will ever save a person, but you know, we are to at least do our part. You know, we are to plant a seed, and God will, you know, cause the plant to grow. And so,
We'll say ultimately, I will say ultimately though, I think it's important if, especially as Christians, and I don't know about, with other religions. I'm not. I know, like, like kind of like the bare basics, but I don't know like what their tenets are. But as far as Christianity goes, God has to be the center of the marriage. Like that is, he is
right.
included in that because he
As
is
I
the
write
one
in
that has.
every, you know, wedding card I, you know, ever given to anybody.
Yeah. Well,
Even though
as I said,
even though I myself have never
God
been
has
married.
created. Yeah, God has created the
Yeah.
union. And so if he's not at the center and he's not the focal point, the marriage is not going to work. It just doesn't. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not going to be struggle and strife um, within that
Because people are
marriage,
people.
but ultimately, if both people have their eyes focused on the Lord, you are going to work through those things and figure something out. You will come to and you will, and kind of just in that idea of, as the man loving the wife and the wife, serving and loving the husband. It's a cycle. It's we're a team. We are one. We have to work together in this thing, and no one person is better than the other. We just have different roles, and we have to work together. It's So I think like that's, to me, that is the most important thing. As if you guys are believers out there, God has to be at the center of that marriage. That is the only way it's going to work. Now, it's funny because I've met like a lot, like I've had a lot of friends who, yes, are they Christian, but they live in, their parents are like, yeah, they're Christian, but I mean, they're divorced or what have you. And then I meet like some people who, like, yeah, they're not really like believers at all, and yet their marriage is like perfect. Like they and it's funny because the way that they interact with one another is very biblical in a sense. They're not cheating on one another. They care for they love one another. They work together. They have common goals and beliefs.
Hmm.
And like divorce is like not even in the conversation.
Right.
Yet, and it's like that's weird to me in a lot of ways. I mean, that also doesn't really show that's not a shining example for us, to be honest. Um, because in my opinion, like divorce should never even be in the conversation. That's not an
Right.
option. Like you have made this commitment to death. I mean, those vows are very
Right. And
serious.
even yeah, even you know,
So
even in the I guess service, like part of the benediction is like, you know, what God brought together, let no man tear asunder.
yeah,
So yeah, I mean,
so I just
yeah,
don't know. It's an interesting thought that I have to wrestle with that a little bit
right.
more.
Yeah, no, yeah, because I yeah this because I yeah, cause I've been wrestling with it for a few days now, and you know, I definitely understand the argument, you know, particularly the whole thing about sin, because you know because marriage was created by God, and you know, and for the enjoyment, you know, and for the enjoyment of both man and woman, in covenantal union, you know, with each other and with God. And so, you know, anything, you know, so like, you know, things that happen, you know, outside of it, with that constitute a sin. You know, I'm leaning towards yes, but you know, that doesn't mean I'm going to go out and like start, you know, stoning, you know, civilly joined people. Um,
My only comeback would be this. is that the rainfall on good and bad, just the same. And is it not true that okay, maybe they did not get married at church, or maybe initially they were not Christians before they when they got married, but have become maybe Christians since. Did God not put those people together regardless? Like, I mean, God is still working within people, whether they is putting people together, whether they realize it or not. He's still the the ruler. It's not like Satan put people together in a union.
Right. Yeah. No. Right. I get like the. Yeah. I understand like the common grace and all of that. Um, it's yeah. It's more of an. Yeah. It's yeah.
It's not like they were married by the Church of Satan. It's like
Right. But yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, in my.
that's a different. Maybe that's a different story. It's like
Yeah. But yeah. It's just the interesting. It's an interesting query. It's something I think that particularly if you are a believer, you should be wrestling with. Um,
I would say that at my
because
right now, I
particularly,
would lean.
well, which is really quickly, but particularly if you're a Christian and you think that your beliefs, the way you live life is the best, like would you not advocate that for everybody? And particularly if Christian, I mean, as believers we know that it's true. But if Christianity were true, and there are not saying that and there are these benefits, not saying that there aren't any hardships, but there's all these benefits to Christianity, and we know it to be the best way to live one's life. Ought we not then advocate it as strongly as possible? I mean, not to the point of violence, because that would negate the message of Christ. But should
Right.
we not, with as much vigor and as enthusiasm as possible, advocate for that lifestyle?
Like I said, I would lean towards slight disagreement. Just be not because, but I don't want to just dismiss it
Right.
outright and just well that's. But yeah, it's something to think about, something to wrestle with, and I still feel like God's in control of all that. Like it's not something that he's. Yeah, I think there's a lot more like grace in that than we might think. And the thing is, like a lot of situations that people are in, based off like whatever their circumstances are, maybe yes, things are not ideal.
Mm-hmm.
People live, and because they're not ideal, maybe people don't always go about things in the right and proper way that maybe they should. But I don't think that those are necessarily outright like sinful things. Like they're not doing something to commit sin. Um, but it's more of like this is the option that is open to them at the time. But I don't know if that's not necessarily like an evil or bad decision. It's just sometimes the options available to you, and there's not like the ideal option is not available. So you have to kind of what is of the options I have, what is the best? What is the good option out of this?
Yeah.
I mean, because I think it's good for people to be married and to start a family, but it might not necessarily be in the way that the church or I mean, and you know, because I also wonder, like, biblically, like, is it okay? Because I think sometimes we confuse, the church, uh, um, what their regulations or whatever are. We confuse that with being like what's biblical as well.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's fair. But yeah, but I
Like I
think
said,
but
like I
particularly,
said, I'm not
yeah,
dismissing
yeah,
this
yeah.
at
Of course
all.
not. Yeah, this is it. I realize, I'm dropping this in front of you.
I too am playing devil's advocate.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, yeah. Again, I'm not. If I find out that you're civilly joined, I'm not gonna go and burn you at the stake. Um, it's just something. Yeah, it's just something particularly for believers to wrestle with. And in the context of which this debater brought up this point is, because this because this particular debater, he's a Christian. He's a practicing Orthodox Christian. Um, and he believes that because I know like the red pill gets like a bad rap from like all sides, and and from Christians as well. But the red pill and Christianity ought not be enemies. Um, but
No.
but I think there are places where that Christianity ought to push back against the red pill, when merited. And I think, and particularly when it comes to this idea, because going back to the first question, why is it that you know the church has to stay out of the government's business, but the government can cross the line and go into the business of the church, and which then goes into this idea of marriage. If marriage is instituted by God and and ought to be the purview of the church, then then is then are civil unions co-signing of sinful behavior?
Yeah. Like I
Yeah, I
said,
mean,
it's
it's an
an
interesting
it's
question.
something to
It's something
wrestle
to
with.
wrestle with. Yeah, I mean, I do understand the point that the debater was making, and I might slide a little bit closer to agreeing with him. But again, I'm not gonna start forming up a posse and rounding up civilly joined people.
Yeah.
But of course,
Let's
yeah,
get them,
yeah.
round them
And
up.
so I would and yeah, and I mean, and of course, because I'm a believer, I believe that Christianity and the teachings of Jesus Christ are you know the the most beneficial is the most beneficial way to live. And so in that same
Right.
lens, I would then vigorously and enthusiastically encourage for that, and particularly those who who might have gotten civilly, I would then even if they were civilly joined and then they became Christians, but they never uh, got married under the auspices of the church, I would then advocate for them to do as such.
Right. Right. Right.
So, but other than that, yeah, this is a question to be wrestled with. And I mean, and then like the idea that anything any marriage outside of the church is then sin, then I would have to then wrestle with or contend with the notion of, oh, what about Muslim marriages or Jewish marriages or Shinto marriages, and on and on and on and on. And so,
Right. 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 Right.
I mean, I would probably I'd probably still say like no, like yes, you're living in sin. But I'm not gonna go out. I'm not gonna condemn. I'm not gonna round up and try to burn people at the stake. I would hope that that the Holy Spirit opens their eyes to the truth.
It's, you know, that's kind of the best way to go about it, I think, is ultimately.
Yeah.
Well, should we
All right. Okay.
dive
If
into
you have
our
if you had
movie
nothing else to
review?
add,
I have nothing else to add, like I said, but I'm intrigued. I'm gonna think about this for a little bit.
okay, good. I mean, yeah. I mean, that's I'm not here. Yeah. I'm not here to like try to change anyone's mind. Really, I'm just here to present what I think and what I believe, and and if it strikes a chord within you, I hope you take the time to sit with it and also wrestle with it, and come to your own conclusions, or continue to wrestle until you do come to a conclusion.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I mean, I know I say like I agree more towards like if you're not joined in the church, if you're not married in the church, then you're like living in sin. Like I do kind of lean toward that, but I'm not saying that I am then going to start shaming people or trying to convert people so that they can get married in the church. That's not what I'm saying. I would advocate, but I wouldn't force.
Right, right.
All right. Yeah, good discussions tonight. Good discussions tonight.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I really enjoyed both I really enjoyed both topics for discussion tonight. I hope
Yeah, yeah. It was. I think it was. It's kind of nice to like do these because like news is sometimes like it's this we think of like we have this 24-hour news cycle, right? But a lot of times like there's not really something new.
right.
It's the same
Yeah,
stories being
over and over.
repeated over and over
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
in
could
a
be
certain like, but they might change up some of the words, and it's in reality it's not that much. Like there's not usually there's not a whole lot of updates like it within that 24-hour
I mean,
cycle.
think about it like in the olden days, and you lived in a small town, and they kept reporting on the town bunny. It's like, oh, the town bunny moved his foot today. And it's like, oh, how many inches did it move? And da da da. And it's like constantly giving updates about the town bunny, and just like, who cares,
Winter storm death count.
right? Yeah, or winter storm
Oh,
death
it's currently at
count.
0.
But we expect it to go skyrocket pretty soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, could we have talked about today? Could we have talked about I don't know, Robert De Niro, trying to really
Oh
really
God.
weakly trying to troll Trump by holding like what's that thing? Well, a press conference, yes, but kind of like a campaign rally outside of the courtroom. But then he gets mercilessly heckled by counter demonstrators. You know,
Yeah, it's because
yeah.
he's
Could
an
we
idiot.
have talked about
Listen,
that? Sure,
he
but
you're
could,
I love listen, I love Robert De Niro in a lot of movies. That doesn't mean I want to hear about his fucking politics. I don't give a shit about what he thinks. Because a lot of times he's an idiot. And just like I don't want to hear about a lot of celebrities like politics. I don't
right?
care. Just fucking act. Just like I want my athletes to athlete. I want my actors to act. It just fucking stick to your
Yeah.
lane,
Yeah.
buddy.
Well, I mean, what was it? Oh, it was both. It was both. It was both the same person. But as the famous Laura Ingraham says, like, shut up and sing and shut up and dribble.
No one care. Like I'm talking about both sides. I don't care.
Yeah.
I just want I want all I want companies to sell me the fucking product, make a good product and sell it. That's all I
Yeah. Just
want. I
make
don't
yeah
care
make a
about
good
like
product, and I promise
we
I'll
at
give you money.
such and such like we care. It's like shut the fuck up. No.
Nobody cares that you
Sell me
care.
the
Nobody
thing.
cares that you care.
That is all I want. Make a funny commercial or like something that's like it's somewhat entertaining. It uh like I love Robert De Niro in Raging Bull or fucking Taxi Driver or shit like that, or The Godfather Part 2. I don't really give a fuck of what he thinks of like Donald Trump and like whatever the Republicans are doing. Who gives a fuck? Just shut up.
Although it was pretty funny that he got heckled, and one of the hecklers was like,
I love it. I do
"Yeah,
love that.
It's like you're out of touch and your movies suck."
Yeah.
Oh my
Like,
god,
yeah.
dude! When
Well,
I
his
heard,
current
when I
movies
heard
suck.
that, it just like it made me laugh so hard.
I'm trying to think like what his like last good film was, like where like because there has been a steep
Well, I mean,
decline
are we talking about
in
box
the
office
movies he's
success
done.
or like artistic merit?
I would say artistic merit because that doesn't always mean box office success.
Right. Mm,
There's plenty of movies that we like love that did terrible in the box
mm.
office. So is it Analyze This maybe? Although that was pretty
Yeah, that
successful, I
was pretty
think.
successful. It had to have been. It had to have
I
been
mean,
in the
there's
'90s.
Heat. So no, so Heat was
Yeah.
95. Was Analyze This after that? Was that
Yeah, it was
97, I
like it
think?
was towards the end of the '90s into the 2000s.
Was he also in the
Yeah, he was in
score?
the score with Edward Norton. Yeah, yeah.
I haven't. Yeah, I heard that's pretty
Mm,
good. I'm trying to think like what his like last good movie was. It's been 20
yeah.
years. I can tell you that, or almost 20 years.
Mm.
Al Pacino have been way more successful within the last 20 years than De Niro has. Because he's still, even though he's like fucking like way old, like both of them have kids too
Yeah,
recently.
yeah. Pacino. I think like he's like 80 now, and he just had a kid. And De
Yeah,
Niro,
De Niro is in his
he
80s
just
too,
had a
isn't he?
kid. Dude, who was that? Who was that
Jesus Christ.
politician that you told me that like like he had a kid in his like 80s and then hit.
Oh, that was our that was our 10th president. Shit. Why am I drawing a blank on his name?
Van Buren?
John
Probably not.
Tyler. It was John Tyler who had a child very late in life whose child and one of
Yeah, he
that
also had
child
a
had
child late in
his
life.
child late in life. And so the grandson of the 10th president of the United States recently died like a couple of years ago.
Wow.
The
Yeah,
grandson
the
of our 10th
grandson.
president. That's
Seriously,
crazy.
not the great grandson, not the great grandson,
No, no,
the
no.
grandson.
Grandson.
One generation removed. Sheesh.
In that is
Yeah.
insane.
Of the 10th president, people. The 10th.
Yeah.
All right.
That's why that's so wild to me. But yeah, no, like De Niro, it's like I love how like he got it's like, yeah, your movies suck, dude. It's like, and I bet you like he's a young kid who's like he hasn't seen like when De Niro was actually a good actor because
I don't know.
he's been in some dog shit
Yeah, but
like
I think it might
in the
also
last
have just
20
been
years.
like trying to get under De Niro's skin because he
Oh
looked
well, I
like
mean
he
it's
looked like
certain
the
dude. He
the
got pissed.
protester in question. I think or the demonstrator in question. I think he by the look of him, he looked like to be in his late 20s or early 30s.
So yeah, he doesn't know the good De Niro, and it's like fuck this dude.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, like
but you
these
know, but he might be a cinephile like like you and me. So he might have literally just been saying that to troll, to get under his skin.
oh could be. I hope
Yeah, I
that's the
mean,
case. I think that
at least
I'm
that's
gonna.
how I'm taking it, which makes it even more funny.
Yes, yeah, it is. Fuck Robert De Niro. Like he's
Yeah,
such a.
I'm
I
trying
mean,
desperately
dude,
to remember him as he was, not as he is. But like clips,
listen,
but
I
him coming out as a Biden surrogate, that's like pussy territory, man.
it's just listen. I like the Roger Corman school of thinking. It's like, listen, yes, am I? He was unabashedly what I consider myself kind of like a liberal, part of the Democrat Party. Yes. Do I have a message? Yes. But ultimately, I'm here to entertain people, and that's the point. Yes, you can have a message, but that message cannot come at the cost of entertaining people. And certainly that worked throughout his entire life, where he all his movies, say what you will about them, they always made money because people enjoyed them. That was the whole point.
Indeed. Yeah, I mean,
And you get you
even Jordan, his famous quote, like Republicans buy shoes too.
yeah. Yes, he and he's come out. It's like, yeah, I support the Democrat Party and all that stuff. That's which is fine. I don't really care about that. But it's like he's like, listen, my fandom is not just from like one side of the aisle. It's just like people like me. Okay, so I'm not gonna turn down somebody because of like what their politics are. It's like, come on, that's realistic.
Indeed.
That's why I hate the fucking Dallas Mavericks because I can't
I know,
stand
right?
Mark
Yes,
Cuban.
Mark Cuban.
That guy's a fucking oh my god, he's
Yeah,
the
he's a
worst.
huge nozzle.
God.
All right, and that is what we're sparing you from. Okay. All right, let's get it. Okay, with the topics of discussion concluded, we'll move into our movie review. All
Let's do it.
right. Let me just hit everyone with the synopsis, and we'll get going. Oh, excuse me. An aspiring Florida defense lawyer, Kevin Lomax, accepts a high-powered position at a New York law firm headed by legal shark John Milton. As Kevin moves up in the firm's ranks, his wife, Marianne, has several frightening mystical experiences that begin to warp her sense of reality. With the stakes getting higher with each case, Kevin quickly learns that his mentor is planning a far greater evil than simply winning without scruples. This movie was released in October 17, 1997, directed by Taylor Hackford. Adapted from the book The Devil's Advocate.
Yeah, from 1990. I James Newton Howard did the soundtrack, which he works with. I think he that's the guy who works with like M Night a lot. He's done a lot of his scores.
Yeah. So,
Uh,
well,
yeah. Why did
yeah.
you
I'll start off with
obviously like
your famous questions. Like, how'd you come to the Devil's Advocate?
Well, Andy, I came to it this week because you wanted to talk about it, and I had never seen it before. So that's how I came to it. How did you come to it, my friend?
Through I didn't watch it in theaters. I know that. Um, but
Was this your cousins introducing you to film
no, no.
your
I was
naughty
I was
cousins?
I was well beyond that. I was well beyond babysitting age at this time. So, um,
Oh yeah, you were
yeah,
a
as a
teenager,
teenager.
just like
So,
me. So
what is it? Yeah, I don't remember how I. It might have been like at a friend's house, we rented a movie or whatever. Or, but yeah, I was very young. Probably not as young as when this movie came out, which was in '97. So that means I was going into eighth grade.
was it? So is this like something you've only like watched once, and it just kind of like stuck with you, or have you watched this like a bunch of
No,
times?
after the initial viewing, I mean, it would always pop up on basic cable like TBS or TNT. what have you.
Okay,
So
all right.
I watched the very much edited versions. Uh, you know,
Yeah.
um, but
Um,
yeah. So I kind of grew up watching this movie. And what is it? Yeah, I grew up watching this movie, and yeah, I would say that it had a very profound impact on me. Um, least of which, at the end, when Al Pacino's the devil, is his is doing his darndest to get Keanu Reeves, Kevin Lomax onto his side, talking about how God's a sadist, and and or I think he referred to him as an absentee landlord.
yeah, it's funny. We've had several films this month where the kind of the demon or Satan himself making some interesting, like I said, kind of seeing it from the other side. It's very Screw Tape Letters
Yeah,
esque, and like the way that they are how they talk about who God is, stuff like that. And I think it's kind of an interesting way to see things. And I yeah, this is such a crazy film. And I maybe it was ruined for me a little. Obviously, well, it's in the title, Devil's Advocate, but the I kind of knew before I even saw this film. I had heard about how Al Pacino is like he plays the devil, and it's just like really, very Al Pacino esque, like kind of over the
yeah,
top. It's like he can big ass.
yeah. It's
It's
very
like
it's very Heat Al Pacino.
yeah, very scent of a
Yeah,
woman, Heat Al
hoo-ha.
Pacino, like post scent of
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah,
woman.
yeah.
Uh,
Take a flamethrower to this
but
place.
yeah, but I did like, I thought Keanu Reeves did a great job in the role that he plays, where he's essentially being his. I think his soul is being compromised through it, like as far as like how he's dealing with clients that he knows are probably guilty, but because of his pride and his vanity, he can't lose. He doesn't want to
Right.
lose.
Yeah. This,
Um,
and just really chiming in real fast here. This was actually the first time in a while that I hadn't I seen the full version, not the TV versions.
the
Yeah, the
TV
TV
cut,
cut.
yeah.
And I totally forgot like the reason why he initially had that crisis of conscience in the beginning was because the fucking teacher was being such a degen.
Oh, that guy was fucking
Yeah,
that
yeah,
kid.
like when she was like describing what he did to, and like he would like with his hands, and he was touching himself underneath the table, and then that.
Dude, that was fucking gross. It's like this
Yeah, and so
fucker, and that
yeah,
like he
because
saw that and he's like,
yeah, I forgot
and he
that
was
was.
disgusted
Yeah,
with him.
exactly. I forgot about it, and that's why he
Yeah,
called for that recess, because he was like so unnerved by him.
he was like, it was that kind of that moment where it's like, do I tank this case or what do I do
Right.
with this? And that's where like you had the reporter come in, who we come to find out later who that is, but he's like, can't win them all. And he's like,
Yeah, it was a
kind of the wink
yeah
and the
the wink and the the clicking of the tongue thing.
yeah, it's like, but then that's what like fucking spurns his character. Is like he's like, was it
Yeah,
Lomax? He's like, it's like he does that. He does the same kind of movement. And he's like, okay, game on. And so he fucking goes after that little girl.
yeah,
And oh man, it was brutal. It's like,
yeah.
dude,
Just yeah.
Because you don't like him in
I don't
that
know if it was
moment
the
at all.
father, but I'm pretty sure like someone getting that angry. What it was the father and how it's like because Keanu Kevin Lomax, he was just hacking away at this little girl, and like the father was like he's like, how dare you leave her alone, and it's like that because that guy, I mean, I think was the father, had every right to be that pissed
Fucking
off because
pissed.
after what that teacher did to his kid.
Yeah, and it's like everyone knows that happened, but it's just like, but yeah, like I said, in a courtroom, you pull those shady tricks, and that's what Kevin Lomax does.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
And he
alternatively,
pulled it out of his
I
hat.
mean, it doesn't have the same ring, but alternatively, this movie could be called like either The Temptation or The Seduction of Kevin Lomax.
Yeah, I think that might be that to me would be a better
Mm-hmm.
title, just because that is kind of like what is
Yeah.
happening. He is the more and more he compromises himself in these cases, and like kind of in a small area, in that small area, like
Right,
because they're
because
in Florida, right?
and it like and even at the when he the case gets dismissed or whatever, he they're saying like, oh yeah, like you dragged that you dragged it into the I forget what the thing was, but you dragged it into the realm of plausible deniability. So it's so it's
Yeah,
like so he brought it into the shadow of doubt. So like because he was bringing up all these things that the girl did, like passing notes and making fun of the teacher, and in a really in a very disgusting way, I'll admit. Making it seem like, oh, you kind of like that really scummy way. He's like, oh, you know what you're doing. Like he's like, are you sure? Yeah, are you sure you
yeah.
weren't like leading on the teacher?
Oh, dude, it was fucking
Yeah.
horrible. Like this just but I think, like I said, the idea of even like, so you're in this smaller area, and you are making more and more compromises to maybe it's kind of that we talked about in Nefarious, the saying
Oh right, yeah.
it's a series of yeses. And that's exactly what Kevin Lomax is doing. It's a series of yeses where, like, how far are you willing to go to compromise yourself to get that win? What are you going to say yes to? And that's obviously what attracts the New York firm that where they're like, Kevin Lomax gets on their radar, and they want him to help with like jury selections. And it's like I said, even in that moment where he does get into kind of that moment where he's being tested, it's also that's another series of yeses. He has a good insight into
Mm-hmm.
people, and makes more and more and more compromises to his character, to the point where his wife is affected, and there are these temptations that are thrown at him that he is definitely tempted by. Like, he doesn't necessarily um, thrust himself into it at that moment, but it's in his head, and it's he wants to do it, but he doesn't do it exactly. And uh, God, it's my only question was, so the reality of everything, because we do have time where we spend with his wife, played by
Right.
Charlize Theron, and what was her name, Marianne. So and she spends time with the other wives and the women around,
Mm-hmm.
but there is like she's able to see like some of their demonic
Mm-hmm.
presence. So that's the part I didn't quite get, because this is the story of Kevin Lomax, but these things are happening to his wife. Like, what do you think about that? Like, how do you what do you think of those scenes?
Right. I think.
Is this because of Kevin? Is this because of Kevin Lomax, or is this because ultimately, like what we find out at the end is that this is a vision of what could happen. So is this in what he is seeing?
Potentially. Um, yeah, or it could be just like one of those like reset things. But then that's giving the devil too much power. So it could be just like like this is the trail you'd go down if you did all these things.
I feel like they're going into like Last Temptation of Christ territory a little
Maybe,
bit.
yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure that might have been an influence. I mean, 'cause this movie came out in '97. That came out like in what 88,
88.
yeah. So that might.
So I was kind of thinking about that a little bit when I was watching this, just because when we do everything is kind of just coming to a like this crazy climax, and he ends up not choosing Satan at the end. It snaps back into that moment in the
Right.
bathroom in that Florida courtroom, and it's like in that moment where you're at that crisis of what to do, and he chose the in the vision he chose the wrong thing, and it's like what would that lead to, and that's kind of
Yeah.
what we see. So I'm wondering if maybe all the stuff that we do see with his wife, although we think that we're seeing it through the wife's perspective, that is all possibly like what Kevin Lomax is seeing play out.
Yeah, potentially. But then again, I mean, if we're going through the understanding of the Bible, then when Adam and Eve rebelled, when humanity rebelled against God, and they essentially surrendered the realm of Earth to Satan. And so, if he has dominion over the Earth, then maybe he could do a reset.
Well, this also could be like it because this could be like a Job situation too, because the Satan only has so much power that, and God allows that power to
Right.
take place. There's only so much he can do. Uh, we obviously we don't see God within the film,
Uh-huh.
but like we did in
Right.
Bedazzled, right? We don't see God in
Yeah.
this at
Or the
all.
representation of God.
But right, but God is involved somehow. Like he's like you are allowed to go up to a certain line, but he has to be the one that has to make the choice, one way or the
Right.
other.
So in a
You can
way,
show
yeah.
him
So in
what
a way, it's also the story of Job.
yeah. I mean, I could see Kevin Lomax as Job, and like what where like there something is being thrust upon him, and he is a broken sinful man, yes, but that also doesn't especially with his all the things that have happened with his mom. He's obviously not a part of the church like his mom is and all that.
Right. I mean,
And
to say that, but he has been churched. Because in their first
so he's
yeah, in
very
their first
knowledgeable.
meeting, he says like, "Oh yeah, I've been let off at time for time served," which means that as a kid,
Right.
his mom brought him up in the church, and because of her experiences with the John Milton, aka the devil. I'm pretty sure she was a pretty hard Bible thumper, and she probably and we see it because he was able to quote scripture. So I'm pretty sure
Right.
Kevin Lomax was
Well,
steeped
obviously
was
it's not
steeped
by
within Christianity.
yeah. Yeah, it's also not by coincidence that Pacino's character is named
Yeah,
John
yeah, of
Milton, which
course.
is the author of
The
Paradise
ethnic
Lost.
clone, yeah.
Yeah. So the other thing that was a little like confusing, just based off like how I know the movie ends, is the idea that uh Kevin's mom had sex with the devil. What uh what do you think about that? Was that real? Or what because well clearly like she may have had sex out of wedlock and had
Uh huh.
Kevin, and she felt guilty for raising him as a like as a single
Yeah,
mom and
like
all
an
that, and
illegitimate child, quote unquote.
yeah, so essentially yeah, in that sense like the devil fucked me, it's
Oh, right. You don't want to.
but
Yeah, she didn't want to cop to what happens. It's like, oh yeah, the devil made love to me.
right. Well, because this is ultimately this is all a fantasy because none of this has actually taken place. This is just ultimately it's a vision. So was that like Satan telling Kevin that essentially he was involved in his creation? That with his mom doing what she did at that time. It's like I was involved in your creation. Kind of because it is a sinful thing.
Hmm. Perhaps. I mean, if we're are you saying like possession thing, like John Milton just like possesses the body of, like, in this case.
Well, not necessarily because I mean, sin is essentially like it is going against God. I mean, that's ultimately like what
But are we go?
you
But are
think
we?
of like
Are we
Lucifer.
talking like Kevin is, like the product of, like, kind of like the Watchers essentially. Like in Genesis, like, oh, the sons of
You
God, saw that the daughters of man were, attractive, and took them as wives.
Well, like I said, I don't think Satan actually had sex with
Uh
his
huh.
mom, but as far as like her being tempted into having uh a tryst with outside of marriage that led to having a child, um it's very that's something where Satan has is he maybe directly involved? No, but the idea that lust and uh that temptation, man gave kind of gave himself into it. Yeah, like his mom gave into those things.
I think. I think. Yeah. I think John Milton was responsible for Kevin's creation, like, in you know but I think but like his sister, I think, is just a manifestation of sin. Like, and what was the devil's, what was the first sin committed by the devil? It was pride. So she is representative of pride,
Right.
and then Kevin is representative of vanity.
Vanity, yeah. Like I said, the whole movie is symbols. We don't realize it at the
Right.
time. It's all like, and ultimately, I want to watch this again just because I want to see, like, now that I know the ending, I want to go back and like kind of see like what these characters represent, because there's a bunch of stuff underneath what we're seeing that becomes more revealed as now that we know the ending. It's this is not just a like a I think people might think of this as just like some kind of dumb horror-esque
Mm-hmm.
movie, but there's so much symbolism and so much going on, especially if you kind of understand the basics of what is the idea of like what Paradise
Mm-hmm.
Lost is. And if you've read it and you know what that epic poem is, if you know the idea of um some of the biblical stuff. There's a lot of biblical allegory within the film. It's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
What what are some things that did you coming to this again now? Obviously, you notice more of the some of the more sinister things in the film, like the dude like kind of getting off on like hearing what
Yeah,
kind of having the
reliving.
story
Yeah.
recounted by the girl. What are some other things? Did you notice anything like different this time that like kind of hit you in a different way than in the past?
Um, I think the only thing that I noticed was kind of Marianne's kind of descent into hell, as it were. Like I
Yeah,
that it when I was a young kid, I didn't really notice it, but now now that with an adult mind and an adult faculties, like it's not really clear why she you know starts kind of spiraling down. You know, like there's no there we're not given enough information about her to make her think that she would be more susceptible or have more of that kind of like third eye vision and being able to see past the illusions. You know.
that was the part that was a little confusing to me too, because it's it's all based off of like what Kevin is doing. Is he the one that's like kind of helping facilitate her madness and her descent into hell? And like the further compromised he becomes, the worse she
Well, I mean, I think
becomes.
I think that is some has something to do with the kind of the devil's bargain. So his his series of yeses don't directly affect him. They're kind of being passed off onto Marianne.
So to lure him like deeper into the
Right.
hole
Yeah.
a little bit, you think?
So like it's kind of the opposite of like in Bedazzled, where Elliot wishes for something, and the devil fulfills it, but just not in the way he's expecting. And
Right.
so but and then so Elliot suffers all the consequences of his wish, as opposed to in Devil's Advocate, where or in Nefarious, you know, uh, Edward's series of yeses are all affecting him, but in Devil's Advocate, Kevin's yeses are affecting his wife.
Ooh, yeah. That's probably
Yeah.
what's happening, I would think.
So that way, it's a false positive. So Kevin thinks that he's doing the right thing at the detriment to his wife.
And it's like where even when he's given that opportunity, it's like, listen, like, your wife is having some trouble. Maybe it's better that you don't take this case, and we'll
Right. And again,
because oh yeah, Craig T. Nelson is in this too. Like he's the guy that he is trying to help, get exonerated from this
right, but
case.
same problem.
And it's like, and he's given that opportunity. He's like, well, I don't want to give up the case because I figure like what I can do is I will finish this case and then I will help my wife, because otherwise I fear that if I don't do it and then she ends up getting better, I'll resent her for like
For it. Yeah.
for what happened and giving this up. And he's like, well, all right
Right.
then.
And then yeah, it's really important because and
And
one
that's where
important
things get
the
progressively
only truthful
worse.
thing that John Milton, aka the Devil, says in this movie is like I don't make anyone do anything. It's all a choice. And it is because even like towards like the middle where he with that scene where John Milton is telling Kevin, it's like, oh yeah, like drop the case, I'll give it to somebody else, go take care of your wife. He was telling him to do the right thing, and yet because of Kevin's vanity and pride, he couldn't let go of it. He had to be the one to get it across the finish line. He had to, and it had to be known that he was the one to do it. And he put himself before the welfare of his wife. But
Yeah, and once like he did in the at the beginning, he compromised himself in helping Craig T. Nelson's character, who it did end up being the guy who murdered his wife, and he got off for it. Uh, and that's what like really when all hell broke loose in the movie. Um, but yeah, it was a series of decisions that Kevin Lomax made for himself. Yes, were they facilitated by Milton? Certainly. But that doesn't mean that he didn't force him or make the choice for him. He chose it for himself. And that's really like what people don't understand is that that's uh Satan is very good at kind of facilitating all that, but he that there is a limit to his power.
right, yeah, what is it? It's like Satan can dump all the gasoline soaked rags, at your feet as much as he wants, but you have to be the one to strike the match.
Yep, absolutely.
But going back, yeah, it's maybe that's the reason why. I mean, because initially, you think that this is just like some sort of like courtroom drama thing, and Marianne, I forget what her job is. I think she like worked for like some like kind of repo guy.
Like it was a repo
Yeah, and
company.
so and then like it's not as though she was terribly religious, and she had like a contentious relationship with Kevin's mom. And she didn't like exhibit any sort of like inclinations towards spiritualities. Um, so her slow descent, her like descent into madness and hell, was a little confusing to me. But
Yeah.
it might be that it's just like because it's just again kind of like all of Kevin's yeses, the consequences are falling onto Marianne.
So that he is lured into like where he is wanted by John Milton at
Right,
the
yeah, to
end.
usher in the apocalypse or whatever. Um,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, Marianne's descent was a little bit confusing to me, and I still don't quite understand it. I understand it like, or like the theory that all the consequences of Kevin's yeses are falling onto her. That's the only rational explanation I have for that.
That's the only thing I can think of what is happening there. Because otherwise it's a little that's probably the weird part of the film. And I also wonder, the whole idea of like what the him being used to usher in like the Antichrist and the apocalypse and all that stuff, that was also a little strange. But when uh Kevin makes that choice to like, well, I do have a choice, and he ends up like ending
Yeah,
himself so that he can't get at him. That's where obviously we see that the whole thing is a vision of what could happen. And he ultimately chooses to not help out that pedophile, and he but even then like there's still like that vanity in him where it's like, well, I guess I'll give you because the reporter's like, oh, come on, I gotta write this story, this is
right.
great stuff.
Yeah,
It's
again,
like,
appealing to
well,
his vanity.
I'll give you a call tomorrow. Yeah, he's like, once again, vanity.
Favorites, yeah, my
Yeah,
favorite
and he
sin, yeah.
transforms it. But yeah, this is a fantastic film, man. Like I would have never watched this had it not been for you. I've been asked by a lot of people like, dude, you should watch it. You'll like it.
Right.
Heidelberg, our friend, he's been talking to me about it. He's like, oh, dude, you need to watch that. It's really
Right.
good. But yeah, I'm glad I
Yeah,
finally
and you see,
did.
and like, do you see why I thought that pairing Devil's Advocate and Nefarious could work as well?
Oh yeah, it would have been a great pairing too. I ultimately liked where we paired it
Yeah, me too.
though. Uh, but yeah, it could have worked for Devil's Advocate as well. Um, but yeah, I really liked it, man. Like I think everyone did a great job. Al Pacino, just
I know,
fucking
right? He
great.
just, yeah, he was just
And it's
chewing
funny
up
because
that set.
those him and De Niro obviously get connected, together so
Mm-hmm.
often, and we've done two of their films back to back, and their representation of the devil so
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, absolutely. What is it? De Niro's is a little bit more subdued, where De Niro's is more of like a cocaine-filled, like rager.
Oh yeah, Pacino's just like
Like Raiders.
Uh, but how would you rate this, Andy?
I'd give this a 4, solid 4.
Oh damn. I literally have in my notes four stars.
Yeah.
Like I said, the Charlize Theron like stuff, like like I said, maybe with more
Uh-huh.
viewings, I might bump it up just because I might catch more things. But after my first viewing, I would say, yeah, it's definitely 4 stars. Everyone is really, I think, does a great job. Al Pacino is amazing. Keanu Reeves does a. This is one of his best acting roles. I mean, he's been in some great movies. I mean, obviously, I love Bill and Ted's Excellent
Right.
Adventure. I love Speed, The Matrix, John Wick. But this might be one of his better acting roles,
Mm.
where he
You know
just,
what?
I think he
What movie?
really he kills this
A
role.
movie that I still haven't checked out, but Keanu Reeves is in, is The Gift, with
I haven't
Kate
seen that either.
Blanchett and Katie Holmes. And he plays like an abusive like Southern guy. I think I want to check that out.
Oh, I might have to check that out. Have you watched the one where he's like the serial killer?
Oh no, I haven't seen that one.
It's
But that's
interesting.
the one that his friend like obliged him to, right?
Yeah, maybe we should do a Keanu Reeves month, like just like his, because I don't think we've done Bill and Ted's Excellent
Right. Like,
Adventure.
are we gonna do Bram
Um,
Stoker's Dracula?
Fuck yeah, we are.
How much
He's
further
so
to the
bad at that.
castle?
Oh my gosh! But yes, we are absolutely gonna do Bram Stoker's Dracula if we do a Keanu Reeves month.
Uh, yeah, I mean, yeah, and again, I gave a 4, like pretty much for the same reasons you do. It's an overall good movie, but like that Charlize thing, it still confuses me. And I watched it multiple
Yeah,
times. So
hers is the only character that confuses me. Like as far as like what the deal is behind like what's going on with her. Other than that, like I think that's the only thing that keeps me from like saying this is a 5-star film. It's so
yeah,
close, but it's just and it's no fault of
no,
Charlize
no,
Theron either because she's a good actress. So it's just more of maybe like something I'm not understanding, or it's just
yeah,
bad
or
writing,
bad edit.
or both. Yeah, or bad editing. Yeah, but yeah, 4 stars for me.
Okay. All right, folks, there you have it. That's our review for The Devil's Advocate. Both Robert and I give this a 4. Definitely highly recommend this movie. If you haven't seen it, I mean, yeah, I know we might have spoiled it for you, but it's still a great watch. And I know we didn't talk about it, but we're gonna leave it. We're gonna talk about it now, and that is Connie Nielsen. Whoo! Tasty slice. Tasty slice.
Tasty slice, indeed.
My God, I mean, some of you, younger folks might recognize her more as Queen Hippolyta from the Wonder Woman movies. Basically Wonder Woman's mom.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
in
yeah,
this
yeah.
movie, ay, yeah,
Wow. Yeah.
man, I love them
Next
redheads,
week,
man.
yeah. Next week, Andy, it's going to be our 300th Nocturnal
That is
Transmissions.
correct. That is correct.
I don't know if we're going to do anything special, but I can't believe we had 300 of these
I
damn
know. Well, I
things.
mean, they're just so easy to produce. It's not like the main podcast where you have to like schedule and make time and
Yeah.
this.
Well, I mean, we still have to schedule and make time for this,
Right,
but
but it's a lot more simpler because it's just us and we're remote and everything is like digital. So.
right.
But
But
still,
still,
300
300
episodes. Yeah, you're
episodes.
right. It's an achievement for sure.
Should we come up with like a special movie to like just to watch and talk about?
Sure.
We'll figure. It'll be a surprise for
Yeah.
everyone. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, because I don't think we even settled on a theme for next month. So.
The theme yet? Yeah, for next month. So we have a few in mind, but we're not really sure what we're gonna do yet. So you guys will
Yeah.
be
So
surprised next week when you come around.
Yeah. So be on the lookout for that. All right, folks. With that, with the conclusion of the movie review, that brings us to the end of our stream tonight. I hope you had a good time. I had a good time. I know Rob always has a good time.
Always.
Yeah. If you enjoyed the stream, please consider checking out the library of other content that we have. The Circle of Jerks main podcast, old episodes of Nocturnal Transmissions, of course, with the movie review, as well as Rob's gaming show, Up by Up Down. Don't forget to follow us on our various social media accounts, formerly Twitter, now X at and letterboxed at Podcast COJ, and Instagram at Circle of Jerks Podcast. And with all that said, we thank you for joining us tonight. Come back next week and we'll do it all over again. Have a good night.